Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're going to unpack a mental math cheat code that is silently guiding the dollars you earn right now. Imagine having a tool that tells you in about 3 seconds of mental math exactly when your money will double. It honestly doesn't matter what the rate is, what kind of account it's sitting in, or what your timeline looks like. And here's the kicker. This exact same secret also reveals exactly when your credit card debt will double if you let it go unchecked, and when inflation will quietly chop your savings right in half. It is surprisingly simple, almost nobody's formally taught how to use it, and yet it's absolutely crucial for understanding wealth. So let's just dive right in. The entire concept hinges on this single number, 72. Here's the formula, and it's beautifully simple. You just take the number 72 and you divide it by your annual rate of return. The answer you get is exactly how many years it'll take for your money to double. So say you're getting an 8% return. 72 divided by 8 means your money doubles in 9 years. At 6%, it takes 12 years. At 10%, it's just over 7 years. 3 seconds of mental math. You don't need a massive spreadsheet, and you don't even need a calculator. Section 1. The 500-year-old wealth secret. To really appreciate how genius this rule is, we kind of have to look back at its origins. Because this isn't some modern Wall Street invention, it's actually more like a hidden piece of forbidden knowledge tucked away in a centuries-old text. The rule was first written down way back in 1494 by a Franciscan friar named Luca Pacioli. He basically buried it inside this massive 600-page math textbook published in Venice. And by the way, this is the exact same book that invented modern double-entry bookkeeping, which makes him the father of accounting. He even went on to become Leonardo da Vinci's personal math tutor. But here's the wild part. Pacioli never actually explained why the rule worked. He just stated it as a known fact among Venetian merchants. Why? Well, because logarithms, the actual complex mathematics required to prove this formula, wouldn't even be invented for another 120 years. That is how intuitively brilliant this rule was. Moving on to Section 2. The math of doubling.
All right, so we know the history. Let's fast forward to today and see how this surprisingly simple equation actually plays out in the real world with the numbers you and I deal with. If you put your money in a regular savings account right now, you're getting an FDIC national average of about 0.38%. Divide 72 by 0.38 and your money doubles in 189 years. You literally won't even be alive to see it. Now step up to a top high-yield savings account paying around 4%. 72 divided by 4 gives us a doubling time of 18 years. Much better, but you're still moving pretty slowly. A balanced bond fund earning 6%, that takes 12 years. But look at the S&P 500. Over the past century, with dividends reinvested, it's averaged about 10% per year. At 10%, your doubling time is 7.2 years. That means your wealth is doubling 4 times faster than the average American pays off their mortgage. Let's see how this builds over a standard 30-year career if you start with a $10,000 investment. At a 2% return, it grows to about $18,000. That's barely one full doubling over 3 whole decades. At 5%, you hit about $43,000, which is 2 doublings. At 7%, you're at $76,000, or 3 doublings. But at 10%, you are sitting on over $174,000. That is more than 4 doublings. It's the exact same $10,000 over the exact same 30 years. Literally, the only thing that changed was where you put it. And here's the part that most people completely miss. The 10% account isn't just 5 times bigger than the 2% account, it's nearly 10 times bigger. Why? Because every single doubling stacks on top of the one right before it. The first doubling adds $10,000, but that fourth doubling, it adds $80,000. Same effort, same rule, 8 times the impact.
Section 3. The power of early money.
This stacking effect is exactly why multiplication absolutely breaks our linear human brains, and it sets up one of the most critical concepts in all of finance, early money. Let me show you what that actually looks like with 2 hypothetical people. Let's call them Alex and Veronica. So both decide to invest $400 a month into an S&P 500 index fund. Both average an 8% return per year, and both plan to retire at age 65. The math is identical. The only difference? Alex starts at age 25, while Veronica waits just a bit and starts at age 35. Because she missed those first 10 years, Veronica technically contributes exactly $48,000 less than Alex out of her own pocket. Honestly, that seems like a pretty minor difference in inputs, right? We'll take a look at the final results at age 65. Alex has about $1.4 million. Veronica has about $596,000. This brilliantly illustrates the magic of the rule of 72. Think about those numbers for a second. A $48,000 head start became a massive $800,000 gap. And this didn't happen because Alex earned a higher salary or because he was some stock-picking genius. It happened for one simple reason. He got one extra doubling at the very end of his timeline.
And because of the stacking we just talked about, that final extra doubling carried the entirety of his accumulated wealth right along with it. Every dollar you invest at 25 gets one more doubling than the exact same dollar invested at 35.
To really drive home how our brains just fail to grasp compounding, I've got a quick challenge for you. Take a single penny, 1 cent. Now imagine it doubles every single day for 30 days. How much do you think you'd have at the end of the month? Just guess. Don't try to actually do the math in your head right now. Most people assume the answer is, I don't know, maybe a few $1,000s or maybe a few $100,000 if they're feeling really aggressive.
The actual answer is $5.3 million. $5,368,709.12 to be exact, from one single penny in just 30 days. That's no magic trick. It's just compound math doing exactly what it always does. It looks like absolutely nothing is happening for the first 2 weeks. By day 15, you've only got $163. On day 20, you're at $5,242. Even on day 25, you're only at $167,000. But then it just explodes in the final stretch. On day 30, it crosses $5 million. You see, we track the world in addition, not multiplication. The early days feel flat because, well, in linear terms, they are. So when you look at your retirement account at age 30 and it feels kind of small, you aren't doing it wrong. You're just in the flat part of the curve. The second half is where the magic really happens. Section 4, the brutal flip side. Now, as amazing as all of that is, we need to shift gears for a minute. Because this explainer wouldn't be complete without looking at the darker side of this math. The exact same rule that builds wealth can quietly and ruthlessly wipe it out. Check out this number, 21%. According to the Federal Reserve, that is the current average U.S. credit card annual percentage rate, or APR. If we apply the rule of 72 to a 21% interest rate, we find that an unpaid balance doubles in just 3.4 years. This means if you let credit card debt linger, the math is working against you at an astonishing speed, compounding your debt way faster than almost any legitimate investment could compound your wealth. And it isn't just debt either. The rule of 72 also measures how fast your wealth disappears due to inflation. Let's go back to Alex for a second. He retires at 65 with $1.4 million and plans to live on $80,000 a year. But the clock keeps ticking. At a historical 3% inflation rate, the rule of 72 tells us that the value of money halves every 24 years. So by the time Alex is 89, the exact same lifestyle, the same groceries, the same vacations, the same exact heating bill will cost him $160,000 a year. His real spending power was cut perfectly in half. And he didn't even make a single bad choice or suffer a market crash. So the crucial takeaway here is understanding the difference between nominal and real return. Nominal return is the stated growth, like earning 10% in the market. But real return is what actually buys you more stuff after you subtract inflation. If the S&P 500 grows at 10%, but inflation is 3%, your real return is roughly 7%. If you're sitting in a high-yield savings account earning 4%, but inflation is 3.8%, your wealth is essentially flat. And if you're in that 0.38% regular savings account while inflation is at 3%, you are literally going backward every single year. The statement balance might go up, but your actual wealth is dropping.
All right, Section 5, reaching the tipping point.
Understanding this rule truly puts you in the driver's seat. The ultimate goal of all of this math is to reach the tipping point, that beautiful moment where your money finally starts pulling its own weight. When you hit the back half of that compounding curve we talked about with the penny, the numbers get pretty staggering. When your portfolio crosses the $1 million mark, and assuming a 10% expected return, it is generating roughly $100,000 a year in growth entirely on its own. Just think about that for a second. That is an entire software engineer's salary being produced by your money, literally while you sleep. It's a brain-breaking realization that transforms $1 million from this abstract concept into a visceral working asset.
Now, for full disclosure, and just to be absolutely realistic, you can't just withdraw that full $100,000 every year safely. Modern financial research on safe retirement withdrawal rates typically points to the 4% rule. This means a $1 million portfolio can realistically support about $40,000 of inflation-adjusted spending per year without running dry. But even so, that is life-changing money, generated automatically with zero effort. And honestly, the exact withdrawal number isn't even the point here. The point is reaching that exact moment where your invested money out-earns your job, and you can finally stop trading your time for dollars.
Just before we wrap up this explainer, we do need to quickly navigate a couple of practical caveats to the rule of 72. First, real returns are jagged. The S&P 500 might average 10% over decades, but it rarely delivers exactly 10% in any single year. It might be up 25% one year and then down 37% in a year like 2008. The rule of 72 is destination math, not journey math. Second, the math is most accurate for return rates between 6% and 10%. If you get into extreme high or low rates, the math drifts slightly. But 72 is used because it has incredibly clean divisors. It splits perfectly by 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 12, making the mental math an absolute braze for the rates regular investors actually encounter. Ultimately, the rule of 72 doesn't just hand you wealth. What it gives you is a clock. It tells you exactly how fast your money is moving and exactly what rate you need to hit to get where you want to go. The math does not care if you're paying attention. It just keeps running, doubling or halving your wealth every single year you're alive. So it's probably time to pay attention. I'll leave you with this final thought to measure your own timeline. Look at your current balances. What rate of return are you targeting, and exactly how many doublings do you have left before you stop working? Figure that out, and you figure out your financial future. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.